So I debated for some time about, which videos to post if there was a way to kind of fittingly recap just how bad these sets of 15 matches were, and if it was even going to be relevant, as Wizards has kind of tipped their hand that come Monday, the companion shenanigans will probably be over thanks to an errata or something they plan to do to, quote, answer the companion issue. I don't think that's an actual quote. That's not what they said. I'm not reading it. But I'm just going to post it all, and anyone can enjoy or not enjoy. There are some good games in there, but for the most part, this kind of just illustrated how the deck is not as well positioned as it needs to be relevant or considered as a viable kind of play. There are definitely some questions in terms of whether this build is appropriate, and I'm gonna let the mana kind of let the meta kind of settle itself before I look into that answer. But yeah, no, this was a rough situation. So the final record was 4-11, with wins coming over, with most of the wins coming over bad situations for our opponent more so than our deck. There were some good matchups in there that we lost to, or that should be in theory good matchups, but with Loris running roughshod over the format, there's just a lot of redundancy. It made a lot of the 50-50 decks better against us, a lot of the matchups that were already good against us unwinnable for us, a lot of the matchups that were bad better, a lot of the matchups that were good for us better for them, and the matchups where we could kind of have a fair fight just completely unfair. So the question then becomes, do we warp the deck entirely, which I'm going to do a little bit with Black-White, Martyr Proc, and currently working on some videos in that sense. Do we, what do we do becomes the question, and yeah, I wish I had the answer. I've seen some lists post it, but it just doesn't look like a good time for Martyr Proc, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope, someone makes some adjustments to this deck and gets it through, gets it over, gets it doing what it needs to do. But it's going to be a tough sled in a lot of ways, a tough road to hoe in a lot of ways. The quick card evaluation, Weathered Wayfarer, came out a lot. Maybe just Cavern by itself is what we need, and then we mold to it when counterspell decks are relevant. Cavern did come in handy against Chalice. Cavern, we didn't see any of the blue-green Uro decks that, any of the blue-green kind of tempo-y decks that I had seen a lot before Companion and at kind of the rise of Companion, which is what Cavern is in there for. So, maybe once they handle the companion issue, that becomes more relevant. Ghostly Prison actually pulled its weight in a lot of ways, I think. There were some games where it completely stole the game, or some games where it kept us in a game that we had no right to be in. So as much as I want to warp the deck and cut some things, it's like, is that really the right call when Ghostly Prison did so much work? I guess there's a part of me that wants Squadron Hawk back just to kind of give it lifelink with Heliod and make that a thing. There were a lot of situations where we needed a blocker that we didn't have, so in that sense, maybe it's cutting a Nova, cutting the 2 Rune Halo, and cutting the Wayfarer for Hawks, or for Thraben Inspectors, perhaps even. But yeah, I don't know if I would cut the Ghostly Prison. It felt good when I casted it. It definitely felt good when I casted it. And I felt like it kept us in a lot of games. Yeah, there are some games where it gets sideboarded out, but anything that goes in that slot, that's going to be the case. Gideon's going to get sided out sometimes. anything we put in that slot is gonna get sided out sometimes. As far as sideboard, Celestial Purge seems mandatory, almost main deckable, with how present Lurrus is. Rest in peace, very strong. Might even consider going up to 3, considering Aven Mindcensor was definitely a weak card here. Not a huge fan of it. Hex Parasite as well, not as much of a fan of it as I've been in the past. Just there are a lot of, it's just not doing much. We did have that one really excellent Hex Parasite play where it ate an engineered explosives, so it's good for doing cute stuff and cool stuff, but I think it's a little weak compared to other slots. So definitely some room to potentially cut the Aven Mindcensors, cut the Hex Parasite. I do like the Elspeth. I do think I misplayed it in that one game, where it died pretty quickly. But actually, did I even record that for this set, or am I just referencing something no one ever saw? I don't know anymore. But yeah, I'm happy with this build, not happy with the performance by any stretch. So it's hard to keep justifying it. So that's it. I will be posting the black-white Martyr stuff hopefully before Monday. And it's nice to be back. I'm excited to play around a little bit. I was going to play around with some Lurrus in Soul Sisters, but it looks like that's not going to be a thing. Doesn't really make a lot of sense to do that, since it looks very much, Wizards is implying pretty heavily that Lurrus being a companion is not long for this world. So excited to see that happen. Really excited to get Lurrus out of here and move forward. So that is Mono White Martyr Proc. It is May 28th, 2020. So we'll come back to this in a little bit of time. Let things kind of settle and see if things changes. But as of now, it's hard to recommend trying to get this deck over. And I would love to see people who are doing more stuff with it. I would love to be wrong about my build, and maybe I'm just a garbage, terrible Magic player, and that's why it's not getting over. Maybe my keeps are just miserable, and that's why we got stuck on 2 lands so often. I don't know. I'm open to that kind of feedback, so feel free to give it. Feel free to give any feedback in the comments, and do the YouTube stuff. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Can't wait to toy with Black White Martyr, so that's what's coming up next.